you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the full truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Professor Martin, I introduced myself to you before, but I'll do it again on the record. My name is Joe Crumley. I'm representing Ben Lau. Can you tell us, first of all, we're here in New York City taking your deposition, correct?
Yes.
And the reason for that is that at your age and with your condition, you're not comfortable traveling to Minnesota to go to trial, correct?
Yes.
What is your occupation, sir?
I'm a painter, teacher.
And what is your age?
87.
And how long have you been a painter and a teacher?
Painter, teacher, 70 years, 65, 70 years.
And can you tell us about your education and your training leading to that?
There were regular education. I went to DeWitt Clinton High School, and I left that to study with a Leo Dennett, who had been a friend of my father's, who had just come back from Paris, and he was involved with painting and sculpture and drawing. And that was a very brief period of time. And then with Frank Darcy, and then I was self-taught. I went to every museum to study in Munich and Spain, in all the museums in Italy, most of the museums here, and that was my course of study. And then after an exhibition, I was invited to. I never thought I would ever teach. I was invited to teach at the graduate school at Yale University. I left Yale University because it had become political, and a few years later I started teaching, maybe 37 years ago. I started teaching at what I consider the greatest art school in the world in New York City, the Art Students League at 215 West 57th Street, New York City.
And do you have any estimate of how many students that you've had over the years?
Well, several thousand.
And tell me about your own career as an artist and what highlights or success you've had as an artist yourself.
Well, fortunately, in the mid-50s, I was picked up by the. I didn't think I was ready for another 5 years, but I was picked up by the Charlie Egan Gallery, who was the #1 gallery in the world. He had de Kooning and Franz Klein, and Noguchi, and Joseph Cornell, Elias Goldberg, Raoul Haig, to name a few. This was back. He opened his gallery in 1948, and I'm talking about. He asked me would I have an exhibition in his gallery at the 10th anniversary of his gallery, and I said, and in those days, in that time, in the art world, that was like winning an Oscar. So that was like an incredible step. And then from then on, I've shown, exhibited in the galleries that are in these books.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as exhibit number 1. Thank you, Counsel. And is that your curriculum vitae or resume?
Yes.
I'll offer exhibit 1 at this time. And now I'm also going to show you what's been marked as exhibit 2, which I've shown to counsel as well and will now hand to you. And that is, interestingly, well, why don't you explain to the jury what that is?
Yeah, this is a The Woodward Gallery, one of the most beautiful galleries, great gallery.
I couldn't hear it.
Wood what?
This is a Woodward.
Woodward Gallery. And on the back of it is a partial list of the museums that I'm in, including the Whitney Museum, Museum of Modern Art, and other museums throughout the world.
So that's an invitation to a show that's coming up at the Woodward Gallery.
Woodward Gallery, September 15th, and then there's a larger exhibition, a larger meeting on the 25th, which is a Saturday. You're all invited.
And we're all invited. And then on the back, it also lists the galleries around the world that your art is shown.
Museums.
The museums.
Museums.
Sorry.
Yeah. This has a list of galleries and bibliography, and it just goes on. I haven't even seen this yet.
Off at Exhibit 2 at this time as well.
I'm impressed.
And what are some of the major, if you'd like, major commissions that you've had over the years?
Neiman Marcus in White Plains, huge. 3 12-foot by 25-foot paintings, Neiman Marcus. A very large painting going across Reed Street for a block and a half from Chamber Street called Theta Women. The 19th Street wall mural called Venus.
Is that the one that we were looking at earlier on the back cover of one of the books?
God, I can't even lift this one. Yeah, that's the 19th Street wall painting.
And that's, can you tell us, 19th Street, where is that?
That's right over the West Side Highway.
And it's difficult to tell in the photograph, but maybe you can describe the dimensions of that work.
That's 10 stories high.
And that's your work?
Yes.
Is that the largest of
No,
works?
no. The 230-foot long painting. I guess it is. I did 2 big murals. I did a mural in California. In La Brea, in California. I did 2 big murals in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yeah.
So that's one of the largest. Let's
Yeah,
say.
one of the largest.
You can put it down. You know, I know it's quite heavy. You don't have
okay.
to hold it up for us. And again, I guess tell us about your experience. You actually served in the Armed Forces of the United States?
Yes.
And when was that?
This was in the mid-40s. Our unit was the invasion of Normandy on D-Day.
All right. And in terms of your returning to your teaching, what was the subject of your teaching?
The subject teaching cross-references whatever is art. In other words, you're talking about what is the nitty-gritty of sculpture, of painting, of drawing, of graphics, of poetry. In other words, it's all encapsulated.
And was Ben Lau one of your students at one time?
Ben Lau was one of my students.
Is that how you first came upon Ben Lau?
Yes.
What experience did you have with Ben Lau, starting with your first experiences?
Well, when I looked at Ben Lau's work, I said, hey, I don't know what your plans are, but I mean, this is number one. You are a great natural artist. You have when a musician is absolutely on the mark. You're
Perfect pitch?
perfect pitch, thank you. I said, Ben, perfect pitch. Anything you touch, perfect pitch.
How many of his works did you see when he was a student?
Well, all you have to see is one, but I saw maybe 6 paintings.
And what experience have you had with Ben's work since that time?
Well, I've taken the joy in looking at him. He has sent me photographs of his drawings and paintings. He has sent me some personal gifts as etchings that he did. He visits me when we can. He attends my lectures. I'll have a lecture and he'll fly in to hear the lecture. And just extraordinary. I introduced him to the gallery that I was with, the Grimion Gallery in Houston, Texas. And you have to take in serious consideration that a painter today like Willem de Kooning, who sells for $6-7 million a painting, again, couldn't give his work away in the 50s.
And as long as you brought up Willem de Kooning, can you explain to the jury just a little bit about who that is?
Willem de Kooning was born in Holland. He came to America and took various jobs and this and that, met Arshil Gorky. He had been an art student in Amsterdam, where Holland is the birthplace of artists like Van Eyck, Rubens, Vermeer, De Hoek, Rembrandt, Rubens, Frans Hals. I mean, the list is incredible. Greatest concentration of really great artists come from Holland. And he came out of that whole thing, and he brought that with him. And there's a lineage which moves from Van Eyck through Titian, through Velasquez, into Cezanne, through Nicolas Poussin, and then Cezanne to Matisse, Picasso, and de Kooning. And I'm heir to that, and so is Ben.
Okay, and explain more about how Ben is heir to that.
When we have discussed that, and he has perceived that this is the root, other art does it. In other words, British art has nothing to do with that. Nothing. Absolutely nothing to do with the art I'm talking about.
What is the thread, I guess?
The thread is Van Eyck, Titian, Velasquez. I'm sorry?
The thread is, could you start again?
It goes through Van Eyck, E-Y-C-K, Van Eyck, Titian, who died in 1576, at the age of 99, when the average lifespan was 40 years. And greatest painter of all time, perhaps. And then Velasquez, Cezanne, Matisse, Picasso, de Kooning, and Professor Martin. That's me.
Can you tell us your opinion of Ben Lau and his talent as an artist?
Well, an extraordinary memory, an amazing attention. In my studio in New Jersey, he went into my studio. He kind of disappeared from the main part, and I saw him sitting in my studio looking at the painting, and he began to talk to me about my own painting, and I was floored. He really saw it. Really, I'm talking about like really saw it.
So he has a good eye.
Oh.
And tell me about his abilities as an artist then. to translate that?
I mean, Ben Lau's potential has always been to the sky. I thought with a connection with my gallery, see, and frankly, they didn't see it. The connection with my gallery was through a former gallery, and the former gallery was, plus I had a reputation. Galleries show your work in relation to your reputation more than being able to see. They really don't see it. They really can't see it. So in other words, it would take a lifetime of study. I had a painting on the wall, and I had it for a couple of years, and suddenly I saw it. And Adrian Brow, I thought I had it, and suddenly, oh my God, okay. So it takes as Picasso said, everybody's trying to understand art. I don't know Chinese, and if I were going to read Chinese, I'd have to study it. Same thing with art. And the biggest mistake is, well, I don't know anything about art, but I know what I like. You know, that's horrible. And then the worst criminal thing is someone who pretends to know. And they tell you, yeah, this is... I was dancing with a very beautiful woman in Italy, and this huge guy with a big Seer comes over, and there was an exhibition of Titian, the greatest painter of all time, at the Doge's Palace. And he came in and now stopped the music. He says, now you can see that Veronese is the true master. No way. Okay. I mean, here's someone who's pretending to know. No way. Veronese was a disciple and pupil of Titian.
Let's switch gears a little. Switch gears a little bit and talk about. Tell me about the importance of the thumb to an artist.
Well, I mean, that's part of your whole thing. I mean, imagine if you brought up with chopsticks and there's no thumb to you know, it's really a very delicate art to use chopsticks. If the back of the chopsticks are too large, it's considered impolite in Chinese. You know, they have to be parallel to each other in this delicacy, and you could pick up one kernel of rice with a deft flick like that. And so the sensitivity, you know, I mean, basically, you're separated from the animal by an opposing thumb. That's what separates man from beast. No other animal that I know of has a thumb, especially whales. But you know, if you do something like strands of hair and space in the lips and the configuration of fingers, details of the eye, where you, in other words, the incredible thing of getting the quality of an eye on a drawing, and the drawing looks at you. It's uncanny. The very soul of the person looks at you through the drawing, right? And Ben and I used to talk about that, right? And he wanted to embark in a sense of he wanted to do some poetry. May I reach for something?
Sure, certainly. But while you're doing that, you gestured to a pencil drawing of a young girl in a chair, and the camera did show that. Is that your work?
Yes, that's my work.
And is that a drawing of your daughter?
That's a drawing of my daughter.
And how long ago did you do that?
I guess she was 18. And here is a portrait I did of our friend, Ben Lau.
Yes. So when was that?
This was about 3 years ago. Yeah, this is easily 3 years ago.
And to...
Here's his wife.
Yes. And again, I want you to...
I'm sorry, and his daughter, Isabella.
Yes. And can you explain, again, how the thumb is important to an artist,
Well,
uniquely important?
You know, for example, if I'm holding this, now, I can't hold it this way. I can't hold it this way, but I have a sensitivity to the thumb here, and if I do a line, the line is, or you can almost make a perfect, make circles, or, in other words, the sensitivity of this, if you do an eye, you can see grasping the pencil increases that sensitivity. Now, if I didn't have a thumb, if I drew this way, or I'm not a lefty, if I try to draw with my left hand, I mean, you can barely draw a straight line if you, oops, you know, if you try to draw a straight line with your left hand, you know, as against, say, drawing a line with your right hand, you can see the difference.
So do you have an opinion as to whether an artist like Ben Lau, or specifically Ben Lau's abilities, would be affected by losing a good portion, 3/4 of an inch or a half an inch of his thumb down to his nail bed?
Yeah, absolutely.
On his dominant hand?
Absolutely. I mean, every little thing. You know, in other words, if you're dealing in total sensitivity to everything, you know, the slightest flicker of this in the air, or looking at a person like that, and seeing like this the very soul of the person like that, the sensitivity of anything. Plus the other thing, the depression from a mutilation of something that's so salient to an artist. You know, he called me in despair. He says, "Knox, I don't think I'll ever draw again." And I said, "Ben, come on."
And you think he will try to gain back whatever ability he lost when he lost a portion of his thumb?
Well, he's not going to have the same ability he had before. No way. You know, he might, by dint of training, he's a few years off of training his left hand. You know, a few years of like constant drawing, perhaps he can gain. But then if the left hand is very different from the right hand, right? If you're a righty or a lefty, Leonardo was a lefty.
Before this injury, how would you rank Ben Lau and his talent as an artist?
Number one, with infinite possibility.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you. I'm sure counsel has some.
Professor Martin?
Yes.
My name's Stacy Moldy. We met earlier, prior to the deposition. I represent the defendant in this case, Midwest Fence and Manufacturing Company. And I just have a few follow-up questions on what you've already testified, if that's okay. All right. It sounds like you have, would you call it a personal friendship with Mr. Lau?
A friendship, yeah. But yeah, of course.
Do you keep in touch with many of your students that you've had over the years?
Yes.
You do? So do you reach out to them, or is it something where they're taking the initiative?
I have students that I've had for 30 some odd years that I talk to that are very close friends. Yeah, every once in a while there's a reunion of students. I get letters and talks and favors and recommendations from all over the world.
So do you follow the work of a lot of your students?
Yes.
What percentage would you say you keep in touch with?
Well, anything that's brought to my attention, I get a flood of mail from any former student of mine or any from other university, and they send me a record of their show. They're going to show here, they're going to do this, or yeah.
Have you ever been to any show that Mr. Lau held in your memory?
Yes.
You were? And do you remember where that was?
At the Grimion Gallery,
Is that in New York City?
Houston, Texas.
Do you remember when that was?
No.
Would it have been over 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Have you seen Mr. Lau since he experienced this injury to his thumb that we've been talking
No.
about today? You haven't seen him?
Did I don't, I don't remember.
Do you have a memory of seeing his thumb, his injured thumb?
I don't recall.
Not a specific memory. So it has been represented to you that it was down to his nail bed that he lost the thumb. I actually haven't seen it either, but if it was just the tip of the thumb, would it have the same effect on his abilities?
Yeah, well, it's a shock. I mean, I had a much more severe accident. I had a terrible motorcycle accident that landed me a year in the hospital, and it certainly affected my life.
I was going to ask you that. When did that happen?
A long time ago.
That was a long time ago, and you did fully recover?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. Did you keep painting after that happened?
Yeah.
Did you take any break?
No, it just became, I had to consider distances of travel or a certain thing, do special exercises that took up time.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it was more difficult than when you were in perfect health, but you continued and you just kept going and kept doing your work.
Yeah, but that's my knees. Now I'm sitting in a wheelchair that's caught up with me. But knock on wood.
And you're still working, right?
Yeah.
Today at 87 years old?
Yeah, but that's my knees. I'm sitting down.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you paint, do you paint seated today?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Excuse me.
Sure.
My big painting next door, I'm doing next door, or any of the big paintings, I used to like with difficulty climb a ladder. Now I can't do that. Right, so I have to stretch them and then have the whole painting turned around from a seated position. I just got this little chair next door that's perfect. It rolls around, and I can get this thing, have the painting turned over, which is difficult for me to do.
Yeah.
So I have an assistant to turn the painting over, and then I sit there and I do this and I turn it over.
So it's not right side up the whole time that you're painting then? Sometimes it's sideways,
Yeah.
sometimes it's upside down,
Yeah.
and you're still able to complete it that way.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So earlier you talked about Mr. Lau having perfect pitch, and I was just wondering what you meant by that.
In other words, for example, God, what's the name of one of the great conductors? Did a lot of recordings of Beethoven. He missed a beat, and he stopped. One beat, and he retired. So, when you say perfect pitch, the ability to see, like one of the strongest things you could ever look at is that little African sculpture there. It's a photograph of African sculpture. Mm-hmm. It's one of the greatest aesthetics in the whole world. It sparked off the whole Cubist period. All
That particular...
not that one, but from the Fang. It's a Fang piece. So this sparked off Matisse and Picasso and Dufy and all these guys just realized an aesthetic against dead academic stuff where everything was done with a brilliant finish but had no art in it. Now how do you see that? How do you distinguish between a Cézanne that is still invisible to 99% of the people? Cézanne is invisible. Is one of the great painters of all time. And I how to distinguish between an instantly likable Bouguereau, for example, or Turner, who's the antithesis of art. It's a brilliant illustration, the kind of painting that is revelation instead of illustrating revelation. Now there's a Cézanne, and be invisible to 99. That's one of his greatest paintings. And you say, hey, there's a Cézanne. And art is the creation of nature and everything else in the world.
So when you talk about perfect pitch, is that kind of a scale of talent that your different students may have had, and then if you were up on perfect, you were just way at the top?
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm not musical at all.
Me either.
I've been trying to play this Bach on a ukulele. Give me a break. My main problem is tuning the thing. You have to have, I can't do that.
So you don't have perfect pitch for music?
No.
But you've got good pitch for painting?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, that helps a lot on answering and I understand you think Mr. Lau is very talented, and I think that answers the question. Did you know that he's still able to do, and correct my pronunciation, but he does, he makes prints, and I understand one way he does it is lino cut? Is that cutting linoleum?
Cutting linoleum.
What do you cut that with, a scalpel?
You have a little V-shaped tool, right, and it requires like the concept and then a force to push it with. It's not.
So why do you think it would be harder to paint with the thumb injury than to cut the linoleum?
Well, you know, I showed you here the difference between the left hand and the right hand, and some people write with the thing in here. I've never seen anyone drawing like this. Is it the way one is taught to hold a pencil in a certain way between the thumb and these fingers? See, so my whole sensitivity would be this. Mm-hmm. Is the tip of this finger on this thing. Now, again.
But wouldn't you need that same dexterity to cut the linoleum?
No.
You don't?
That's why he's doing it. You
okay.
know, so he takes a linoleum with his tool like this. And he takes the tool and he goes.
Is that the very tool that you use? No.
No, I have. These come in V shapes and small shapes, all different sizes. But this is a carving tool, a sculpture.
So you wouldn't be holding it right at the tip like you'd hold a brush?
No.
Maybe we should get a brush and have him. Would you be willing to show the camera how you hold a brush?
Sure.
And then there's a lot of them around. I can grab them.
Where?
Maybe you have a favorite, or do you see one?
Yeah, see that glass over there? That little glass, yeah. Get one of those, yeah. Yeah, now, I have just discovered this brush, and it is a miracle for me.
After all these years?
Yes. This year I found this brush. See, now,
do you need a flat surface to show us?
We're fine.
Okay.
Now this down. We're okay. See that? I'm sorry. See that? Yeah. You have no. That bag. You have to pick up. Yeah. Good. Perfect. Excellent. I'm opening the bag with my thumb tip. Anyway.
Is this better?
Huh?
Are you able to get that in the camera?
Is that better?
Okay. Now, just let me move this away. So this brush and this thumb, enables me to.
And we can, let's get it so the camera can see his thumb.
See, watch. See, look at that. That's not planted. That's rolling my thumb on the brush.
In your opinion, you wouldn't be able to do the same thing if the tip of your thumb was not there.
We can try with my feet, but I don't think so.
And earlier you did talk about how you could try to use your left hand, but it would take a few years to get the dexterity. Do you know anyone who's done that?
No.
No?
No.
But
I mean, that's a theory.
have you heard of people painting with their mouths and their feet? I know I've read about that.
I saw. I shan't use. There's a youth thing with a gentleman painting a painting with a brush in his rectum.
Have you known any artists with disabilities? Like I know Frida Kahlo, I think she had polio.
Who?
Frida Kahlo?
Frida Kahlo, yeah, but she's not the kind of painting we're talking about. She's a primitive, not...
So you wouldn't need the same dexterity?
I would not, absolutely not put her in anywhere near the league we're talking about. Picture of you.
Thank you. I'm sure you agree.
Well, anyway, see, all the time I'm rolling, you saw that, I'm rolling my thumb with this.
But you haven't seen, you've said you haven't seen Mr. Lau's actual injury, so if it's possible if he just lost the tip, do you think that he'd be able to do something similar to what you're doing? Perhaps by...
If you lost the tip of your phallus,
excuse me, object to the form of the question, it's a multiple question. Also foundation.
You know,
so misstates the evidence.
You can answer.
If you lost the tip of your phallus, you'd have a problem.
Okay, we'll move on. So you think Frida Kahlo just isn't the same caliber of artist as Ben Lau?
No, not even close. Ben is incredibly. I mean, there's not the same page, not the same planet.
They're doing totally different types of art, right?
One is art, one is not art.
Is that apples and oranges? Not even apples and oranges? You're not a fan of Frida Kahlo, I guess.
It isn't a fan. It's what is art. I'm telling you, the Turner is not art. Cezanne is.
It is.
There's a difference.
It is subjective. I mean, I think we can agree on that. No.
No way.
Okay.
No way. If you no, absolutely it's not. Art is the creation of reality and truth. That's not because I'm an artist. That's the way it is. In other words, art is just naming things. All language is fossil poetry until the metaphor comes up, as Aristotle talks about it, and shakes everything things up and lights up new phrases. And poetry is the exact word in the exact place, and is equivalent to a lightning bug, which is like the so-so word against the exact word, which is lightning. People say, well, that's kind of poetic and much. No, it's the most precise thing in the world. It's the active creation of consciousness, language, perception. The whole thing is right there. And art is never, ever subjective. Absolutely. You could point out, this guy did this. he begat this painter, he begat that painter. There's a lineage that went that way. This is no longer what that's happening. This is happening. Here's Rembrandt, his house. In other words, it's so precise.
So what I kind of meant was people's opinions of art are subjective. You disagree with that too? No? Because the people who don't like it are... You don't have to answer. We'll skip
I'll
that
answer.
one.
That is the most despicable. That's what I said earlier. I don't know anything about art, but I know what I like. That's an opinion.
So art is good or it's not good, and it's creating truth or not creating truth is what you're trying to...
One kind of art is creating truth. It's a cutting edge art. The guys that I mentioned, right? Specific. Each one is specific, and I can delineate exactly how that. You know that.
But isn't Frida Kahlo painting the world as she sees it?
Oh, give me a break. You don't.
Actually, we're getting way off subject.
No. You don't paint. Painting is not journalism. Painting is the creation of the new. Painting is taking perception to where it's never been before. Frida Kahlo's painting a life and expressing this little pitiful little life and stuff like that. And she's a primitive. Primitives are all classified. Grandma Moses, Thoreau. There's books that big filled with primitive artists.
And we might want to continue this part of the conversation after the deposition, but I better keep us a little bit more on subject here.
I'm glad. Could you please put this brush back in the water? Thank you so much.
So how many students do you think have achieved the level that Ben Lau achieved, or are at the same level of talent that Ben Lau is? 5?
5
5 that you can think of? So that's a very small percentage of your total students.
Several thousand students and other artists all over, everywhere.
Do you have any idea how much money Mr. Lau's made off of his art?
Well, as I said before, you can't judge by that.
True, I remember that part, but do you know how much he's made?
No idea.
Would it surprise you if it was under $11,000?
No, not at all.
Wouldn't surprise you because, like you said, in the future it may be looked at differently.
Kooning at the age of 65 started to sell his work. Before that, I said you couldn't give it away.
Do you know if any of your students have made, a living solely on art?
Big living.
You have. What's a big living on art?
Stanley Boxer.
Is that a student of yours?
Yeah.
How do you spell his last name?
Boxer.
Okay. Is he one of the 5 you consider the most talented? No. But he made
way down here.
But people must like his art. They're buying it.
Who knows why people... he was garroted up in the studio, and an immensely productive guy, and I met him in an art supply store, and I said, Stanley, with all of this work, you sold each piece for $100.
Well, how many artists do you think of Ben Lau's caliber could go their whole life and then even after death never become famous? That can happen,
one
right?
guy, Elias Goldberg.
What I just want to ask is, there's no guarantee that people will recognize his talent even after his death, right? No guarantee.
No guarantee.
But in your opinion, they should, because he's very talented.
They could.
They could.
Should.
Now, I just want to ask, we're here today in your studio, and obviously this was set up by the plaintiff's attorney who asked you questions first, is that right?
Yes.
Did he contact you to arrange this?
Yeah, by telephone. He said, we're coming here, he said, would you fly out there? I said, I don't travel well, so.
We don't mind coming here. So, did you meet with him at all prior to the deposition today?
No.
You just met him this morning?
Yeah.
Just a little bit before you met me?
Yeah, he was here a little bit earlier.
Okay, did you have any lengthy telephone conversations, or?
No.
Just to set up the deposition and
No,
nothing?
all he said, Knox, all you have to do is tell the truth.
That was all that was said?
That's all was said.
Have you seen any of Ben Lau's paintings that he's done after the accident? After the thumb incident?
Yeah. Now, I can't detail or remember what he sends me photographs of whatever he does.
Still today?
today. Yeah.
So have you seen a change in his work? This accident happened in February of '07.
Yeah, it's very hard to, I have not given it a thought. Right now I'm looking at it, and when there was conversation about the possibility of his crippling injury, and he expressed distress and the loss and so on and so forth, and he was in tears over it,
And you tried to encourage him and tell him he could overcome it.
Yeah.
Which you believe he could if he...
Yeah, the best thing to do is to go in for intense rehab, and only do things with your left hand and practice drawing with the left hand. He's going to be shattered by trying to draw with his left hand.
But with someone with his talent shouldn't just give up.
No, he hasn't given up. He's doing his woodcuts, which don't need that kind of dexterity. It needs force and push.
Right. Have you actually seen him paint post-injury after he lost his thumb? You must not have, because you can't remember. All right, I think that's all the questions that I have for you, Professor Martin. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Just a few more questions, Professor Martin. Again, you and I never met before today, correct?
Right.
And counsel was talking about your injury. Can you compare your injury, as long as she brought it up? Would you rather have an injury that puts you in a wheelchair as an artist, or would you prefer to have an injury where you lost a portion of your thumb?
Well, I prefer no injury, but the wheelchair is, to have your digits cut off, which would impair and cause distress and relearning and all that kind of stuff. In other words, I can sit and draw, like you saw this, or filling this book with one of the. It's you saw this. The details of a thing. Now, this is not a botanical. This is art. Every single one of these is.
And your injury was not to your hand or your thumb, correct?
Right.
And if you would I think that's all the questions. I'm going to ask the court reporter to mark that drawing as Exhibit 3 and offer it. And I'll ask her to put the exhibit marker on the back, if that's all right.
Okay. I'm going to sign this drawing so that it's so crucial where you sign a drawing or a painting, and it's something I teach in class, where to sign, because the signature can disturb the balance of the art.
If you want to go ahead and hand that to her.
Okay.
Why do you need to mark it?
Sorry.
On the back.
It's mine.
You'll get it.
What?
It's mine. It's supposed to be mine. He's taking it.
Well,
I'll withdraw the offer.
Thank you.
I'll withdraw the offer.
Yep. No, you don't mark it. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. I was going to cry there for a second.
This concludes the videotape deposition of Professor Knox Martin, consisting of one videotape, going off the record at 10:58 a.m.